All right, welcome in Cube Show Podcast, college football podcast. It usually comes to you on Sundays. Had UFL over the weekend, weekend opener. Birmingham at DC, competitive game. Birmingham gets the loss. Tune in next week. I'll be at Arlington. But fun to do that, so I'm coming to you a day late. But I wanted to get to my friend Tyler Siskey, who has worked across college football in recruiting, been a position coach. He was a teammate of mine at Auburn, transferred to Troy, and just talk about a lot of where we are in college football today, specifically with that GM role, which I kind of feel like he was at times, even though that name role didn't really exist. What is it now? Where's it going? What's it going to look like in the future? And then talk a little bit about some of the guys in spring ball at different teams across the SEC that he likes and doesn't like. And as you guys know, each and every week, we're brought to you by Wickles Pickles. Wickedly delicious. We have them here. We snack on them. We love them. They are excellent. Check them out in your grocery store. If they don't have them, just ask them, why not? Why don't you have Wickles? Go to wicklespickles.com. You can have them drop shipped to you. You can get some of the gear. Get the pickleball paddles. Wickles Pickles has those. Get the apron, hat, whatever it is. Wickles Pickles sponsors the show, so please take care of them. They take care of us. I want to welcome in a good friend of mine, Tyler Siskey, former teammate, good friend in the coaching world, now in the media world, which that has to feel a little bit weird for you at times to be called a member of the media. And I think you've seen all sides of that, good, bad, indifferent, fun, not fun, whatever that is. Former position coach, former recruiting coordinator. And if you are still in it today, I imagine general manager would at least be a position that was thrown your way or you talked about, because one reason I wanted to have you on, Tyler, is you essentially did this. Like, this was your job, but you weren't called that back then because obviously the inner workings of football programs were different. How would you describe to fans what the general manager role is in a college football office today?
Well, I think it's different at every school, right? So I think it's really the responsibilities given to them, and depending on the school you're at. I mean, some are true GMs to where they're making personnel decisions. I mean, look at, Stanford, Andrew Luck's hiring coaches. I mean, being true GMs, I think there are some similarities with, Michael Lombardi at North Carolina.
Yeah.
You're looking at guys who are truly, Jim Nagy's going to Oklahoma, guys that are really doing true NFL type GM work. And then you got some who aren't, right? And some who are called the GM, but aren't really making personnel decisions. But most of the most of the schools of the bigger stature, I guess, are. GM came in I'm trying to remember what year it was. GM started becoming, I can't remember, somebody's going to get mad at me. I apologize. I don't remember who the first ever GM was. But when I was in college football, GM was becoming a thing, and it was really because of pay, right? And so off the field, pull back the curtain a little bit. Off the field, a part of your salary is kind of set by the university, and that's why you see all these crazy titles. Like when I was at Ole Miss, I had an assistant AD title, right? So I could get paid more money through the university scale, right? So things like that. So
I think Bobby Bowden started that. Remember, it was like Mickey Andrews was like the executive head coach or like associate executive to the head coach.
Yeah.
And it's like where you're going, I think right before that, it was like, how can we get head coach in their title, but they're not the head coach to get them more money? And then like what you're saying, and then it turned into like, oh, well, if there's some sort of an athletic director, we can give them more money. And then it became like the shenanigans. I remember Miami was like Ed Reed. What was he, like sergeant of arms or something?
Yeah.
And like president of operate. Like it's like I don't think people understand. It's a way to sort of help your salary so you don't leave and go somewhere else.
Yeah, I didn't care what my title was. You could call me the janitor. Like, I didn't get caught up in that. I really don't. And most coaches don't. I would say now, being in the personnel world, now the personnel people, that world really cares about their titles. And it's really a younger generational thing. I think it's a generational thing. I don't even think it's a personnel world. I think it's a generational thing. The younger people really care about their titles. You could have called me the janitor. As long as the commas and the zeros were in the right place, I didn't care.
Yep. And so it's interesting because I almost felt like this new GM role, you almost split it. So it's the NFL background, the NFL model of go watch players, find who's going to fit our scheme, find who's maybe a diamond in the rough talent-wise that we can actually acquire, get them in here, keep doing that. But then I also feel like there's this side of it that is like, I want to go back to the Andrew Luck thing with you in a minute because there's a part of that I think is super interesting. But then there's the other part of it that's kind of like, I guess, organizer of bullshit is kind of what I would say. Like, I've heard multiple coaches talk about, we needed someone that when Tyler Siskey came to me and said, yo, coach, I'm not playing this week on a Wednesday because so-and-so's deal is twice mine, and I have 14 more catches than him and 7 more receiving touchdowns. Like, either up my deal or I'm out. And so the head coach can now say, oh, Tyler, I hate that, man. And I agree with you. It's really unfortunate. Joey down the hall would love to have that conversation with you right now. I don't have any say in it. It's not my department. I actually worry about the X's and the O's and recruiting guys out of high school, but he will get all that situated with you if you'd go have that conversation. Joey can be bad guy and either tell him no or try to get it reworked. And then you come back to the coach, and coach is like, did we get that done? Oh, good. Knowing that Joey and head coach are talking behind the scene. Now, there's also some recruiting, a little bit more of the recruiting coordinator, which you had saw in your day also, goes along with that.
Yeah, so it's funny you say that. I literally had this conversation with somebody we both know not too long ago, and I think this is where it's going, okay? And some have already gotten there.
Right.
And my advice would be, particularly with the bigger programs that are financially invested, is there needs to be a separation of the coaches, just like the NFL, separation between the coaches and the front office. Okay. Now you're seeing some GMs getting paid like that as well. Okay. But my opinion, and it's probably not going to be a popular with my personnel friends, but there's nothing wrong with making money. I think that position has been overworked and underpaid for a long time. Okay. And that position works harder than anybody else in the building, with the exception of the head coach.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's just the facts. People aren't going to like that, but that's the facts. Okay. And if you're going to get paid like that, though, there should be some responsibility that comes with it too. And so if you don't get the roster to where it should be, you should be the one on the line, not necessarily the coach.
Yeah.
And I think, again, that's not a popular take amongst probably some personnel world, but if you want the money, okay, I know this is a very foreign concept to a lot of people out there. Okay, but if you want to get paid money, it comes with responsibility. Okay, and I think there needs to be a separation between the coaching staff and the players, particularly when it comes to money. Like you just referenced, there's got to be a good cop, bad cop.
Yeah.
Because the last thing that you want to do as a coach is to have your relationship strained and be wondering if this guy's going to give it to you at practice or in the game, and you can count on him because he's disgruntled about his money. Okay, you don't want that. You want him playing for you and just be pissed at the GM.
Yeah, because TJ Watt's not going to Mike Tomlin being like, "Hey, yo, coach, my deal not where I need it. Like we got to figure something out." That's a separate, like you said, that's a separate wing of the building that they're going to go have that conversation with. Here's what I think no one talked about with the Andrew Luck deal that I found really interesting. And you brought that up early, so obviously you've been on it. You've been talking about it. So he goes and hires Frank Reich, who he's worked with and obviously coordinated him, and they know each other, which we also don't know the extent of this. The conversation could have been, hey, I need you for 4 months, and then you can go do your thing, and we'll go have a whole new search, or we'll try this out. If it works, you like it, maybe we keep going. Like, we don't know what that conversation was. But I thought the interesting thing was, I mean, you know, like I know, Tyler, because you've been on coaching staffs that have the head man's been removed. And you're sitting there going, I don't know. Like, number one, who's the new guy going to be? Does he even like me?
Sucks.
Yeah. I thought it was very interesting, and I don't think it's all going to work this way. But it said a lot about maybe how the alignment is at Stanford right now of coach forced out, GM has ultimate power, and looks like he's going to stay. Because let's be real right now, like Auburn, Alabama, a couple other places, if the head coach gets fired, there's no way in hell anybody expects those GMs to stick around. Like, no. When Belichick's gone, Lombardi is gone. Like, that's just how it's going to work. Yeah. So that feels like a whole different model where head coach doesn't matter. That guy's going to be there no matter what.
I think a lot of it's because it's Andrew Luck and what he did
Sure.
at Stanford, right? So, I mean, if Bo Jackson were the GM at Auburn, he would probably stay. You know
Probably
what I mean?
not getting rid of him. Yeah.
Yeah, they're probably not getting rid of him. Like I said, I just think everybody's different. I think everybody. I mean, I know people that have GM titles that really don't have any say in anything, and I know people who have GM titles that have say in personnel. I know people who have. Then you go all the way up to the apparently the Lucks, Michael Lombardi, and you would actually say Andrew Luck seems to have more power than those guys
Yes.
if he's hiring coaches, right? So, but with you're going to have again. I think eventually what we're getting to is some kind of not model, but you're going to see more coaches try to create that separation between the GM and the coaching staff, and get people in there that they can trust, that can evaluate talent and make decisions.
All right. You said evaluating talent. We're going to go a lot of different directions. I want to talk some spring football, like our players, coaches that we're looking at that you feel good about, bad about. You recruited a lot, and you recruited like some hotbeds in not just in Alabama or the Southeast, but like all of college football. Let's take a guy like where you recruited, like an A.J. McCarron, a D.J. Fluker, a Julio Jones, all played in that South Alabama Panhandle area. And I mean this in all sincerity. I've actually tried to talk about this before, and I still don't get it. Like, how in the hell do you evaluate a high school player when he's going up against 158-pound defensive tackles or 5'7", 132-pound corners? Like, I mean, I understand some guys are just like, you probably look at Julio and say, we'll take him. But the guys who are a little more fringe and might not be just 5-star plus, which is a real thing now, how do you honestly evaluate those guys?
So, I've always learned off the critical factors. I think there's critical factors per position, right? Different things. And so, like, everybody watches highlight tapes, right? So I don't do highlight tapes. I think I say that. Highlight tapes for me is like a movie trailer. Okay. If I watch somebody's highlight tape, it's a movie trailer.
Gotcha.
But what I go into is we make eval tapes. We do it for my company, right? And so, an evaluation tape is going to tell you the kid's floor. All right. And so some people call it a good, bad, and ugly, an eval tape, whatever, right? And so you're looking, instead of making the tapes, like if you watch a highlight tape, a typical highlight tape, I always use a defensive lineman as an example because everybody can associate with this. If you watch a defensive lineman on defense, his highlight tape, every single sack that he's ever involved in is going to be on that tape. So he could be a zero nose. It could be the fourth quarter. He could be 60 snaps into the game, and he's two-gapping, and the quarterback steps up in the pocket, it collapses on him, and he falls on top of the pile for half a sack. That's going on his tape.
Because I was going to go a different direction. I was going to say every play is a slant or some kind of stunt that's not picked up, or like like he's giving the swim move. Like it's never a bunch of like the grimy, dirty work.
Yeah, you'll get an RPO all the time, an RPO that the quarterback's reading the right side or something, and the defensive end, they're running, read zone or something, and they got something mixed up, and yeah, you'll get those too. And so it's a results-oriented tape. But highlight tape is a results. Running backs, you got about 2.5 minutes to catch a coach's attention. A running back's going to put every single touchdown run that they ever have on the season. Okay.
How many running backs have you seen pass pro on their highlight tape?
Less than 5%. I mean, like there was a joke, coaching receivers all those years. It was always my joke is once I got to the receiver blocking on the highlight tape, the tape was done. It was the last clip of the tape. I'll be like, oh, he doesn't have any clips left. You miss a lot of things. And so, I have my particular that, Coach Saban, is the one where I learned it from. But, I have a particular set of critical factors. Every school is different, but they're really not as different as you think they are. But example, for a defensive lineman, you're going to see all that. But there's 50 clips a year,
right,
of being really good with his hands, dipping, ripping, running the hoop, whatever you want to call it, showing hip explosion, ankle flexion, whatever you want to call it. And if he doesn't make the sack or make the tackle, it's not going to be – if the quarterback throws the ball in the RPO or the running back takes off the other direction, they won't put it on their tape. Coaching receivers, there's how many routes a year that the guy, goes into his route, sinks his hips, gets in out of a break, but he's not going to put on his tape because the quarterback threw it to the other guy. And so I look for more of it's a movement skills. Do they have the movement skills to play at the next level? A lot of it's physical now. The personnel side's physical aspects, right? Size, speed, length. For me, length is the most underrated, non-talked about physical ability. And it's not a physical ability. It's a physical, how – like offensive linemen. You know, I've talked about this before. I don't really care how tall an offensive lineman is. I care how long they are.
Right.
I know we got this whole Will Campbell thing going on right now, right? Now, that's where I see both sides of it from the coaching standpoint. He played in the SEC. I don't give a shit if his arms are 22 inches. He figured it out. He learned how to play with whatever length he has.
Especially the gamut he ran against elite.
Yeah,
like he played every elite pass rusher in the league last year.
Now, if Will Campbell played in the MAC, he would have an actual draft issue.
Yeah.
I'm being serious.
No, it's fair.
Like, he won't have an issue because he played in the SEC and played against the teams he played against. But if he was coming from the MAC or the Sun Belt, he would be he had the same exact stuff going into the draft. This guy's going to be the best tackle, whatever. And he showed up with that length arms, he'd be dinged for that. But with a level of competition. So to answer, going a long way, when you're looking at 3-star guys and things like that, you got to look for – everybody has something. But there's also a reason that they're a 3-star. So you got to figure out, can I coach them with their being limited in these critical factors? These 5-star guys, they're dinging all of them.
Yeah.
Okay. My wife, bless her heart, she can go pick out a 5-star guy. They're not hard. They stick out like a sore thumb. I mean, it's really not hard. Let's be honest. I mean, I always tell the joke about my wife. I was at Ole Miss, and we were having recruiting dinners, and so the wives and stuff will come on Saturday night. My wife knows nothing, and that's probably why we're still married, right? She knows nothing. But when Robert Kimdichie walked in the door, she went, "Who the hell is that?" And I bet he's really good at football. I mean, because the guy's 6'5", 300 pounds, and has a six-pack.
Yeah, he's different.
Those guys don't exist everywhere. And so, those guys stick out like a sore thumb. But also when it comes to the, I guess, quote-unquote 3-star guys, the lower, you got to make sure they got the right mindset that they want to develop. There's more things that you can kind of boost guys up. And so for me, the physical characteristics kind of set the bar, and intangible characteristics either raise or lower it.
I want to tell you about my friends at Fanatics Live. You can go to the app right there. You click it. You see it. If you want to get back into the card game, get into card breaks for Prism Live Golf. You got the Top Series 1 that's out. You also have the McDonald's All-American Topps Chrome that's out. You can try to pull that Cooper Flag patch auto if you want to try to get that. You're going to have multiple options to go check out. A lot of different places they're going to be breaking cards. These things are expensive to go buy a box of, so you can pay a lot less to get into a break right there at Fanatics Live and do it with my friends at Pizza Pulls. I'm there every Tuesday breaking cards. We have one more college football break coming up this Tuesday, and then we'll be doing NFL. We got Topps Chrome Finest. You want to get on that? They got WWE. They have Disney. They have Pokemon. You get in all that. UFC on Fanatics Live, and my friends at Pizza Pulls going to be breaking a lot of that too. We got MLB. They got these massive breaks going with football and Major League Baseball almost weekly. John knows a bunch about basketball, so he's doing some of the Prism first off the line. You got the McDonald's Chrome All-American, and I'm going to be doing football, college, and NFL each week. So go to Fanatics Live, get back in the game, get back into the hobby, and tell them you heard about them right here on Cube Show. It's like when I called the Little Egg Bowl one year, I didn't need a recruiting expert to tell me that DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown were the two best players on the field going at each other.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to figure that out.
Yeah,
So,
A.J. Brown's one of the best high school wide receiver prospects.
dude, it's just totally – I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't even see him play. When he came out for warm-ups and his jersey was tucked under his pads and you saw just how ripped up he was and the way he just moved, I was like, we'll take him. We're good.
Yeah,
I don't need to see anything else.
Yeah, and he's good. And then DK was already – DK was kind of a late bloomer a little bit. DK was you saw the straight line explosiveness and things like that, but he was really, stiff and lateral change direction, things like that. And so you could, it was kind of from an Alabama standpoint when you're recruiting Amari Coopers and all those guys, it was kind of a ding for that, but not surprised at all because he is just genetically, he's an alien.
Yeah.
Like I can't describe it to you. I've been around. I honestly believe if it would come out and people tell us that there's aliens that have been amongst us, that DK's part of them.
I'll be with you. Where he won me over in that game is their coach. I remember telling us that he's like, "You're going to see DK cover AJ 1-on-1." I was like, "Really?" I was like, "He plays both ways," and they're like, "No, but in this game, he said he wants to cover him." I was like, shit, okay.
He's a genetic alien. I don't. When he broke his neck. Game you covered.
Yes,
I think.
Yeah, he did. He broke his neck in that game.
He broke his neck that game, and he's like walking around like something's wrong with my back a little bit.
Well, I saw when he did it, and he went back in.
Yeah, he went back
played in that game after he did it, and then they were like, "No, we got to shut you down." He came back with the brace on after halftime. I was like, "Dude, I played with a broken neck."
I had to apologize to him. I felt really bad because I was like, "What can you?" I mean, because we needed to win the game. We're like, "Can you go or not?" And he's like, "Yeah, kind of." I was like thinking this guy's got a stinger or something that he can play through. And then we got back to we had our staff meeting. I had no idea. And then when we gotten back, they ended up in the middle of the night. He couldn't sleep, so they took him an X-rayed him when we got back. The guy's got a broken neck, and then he's got he has his surgery. They put this a halo thing on him. Like you talking about having a panic attack from a liability standpoint. Yeah. Like what are we doing? He has his surgery. This actually happened. He has his surgery. Okay, he's got the halo on and everything. And we're coming out to practice. We're practicing indoor. This dude's over there catching balls. I'm like, no. I was like, please don't. But he ends up, he's genetic free. He's
They fused that, did they not?
I can't exactly remember. I know they went through the front. I don't know.
I think he got like a cervical fusion, which is I
don't remember, but I just know that he healed really fast.
Yeah.
And he came out and did pro day, he worked out and stuff for the NFL. He wasn't supposed to be able to, but yeah.
So who would be your all-time, if we were putting an alien team together, as you just described it, Julio's probably there. I think Fluker would probably be there. Derrick Henry probably there. Of guys you recruited, who are the biggest he can't be real guys that you recruited?
I mean, there's been some over the time, DeMarcus Ware was probably the first alien I ever came across. I was at Troy. Okay, I think it was my last day at Troy as a GA. DeMarcus Ware was on his official visit. And he measured 6 foot 1/2 inch, 193 pounds. And so just
that might be why he slipped through the cracks a little bit.
Yeah, Auburn High School, by the way.
Yeah. Jarrell Jernigan also.
Yeah. So I would go DeMarcus Ware. Alex Carrington is a guy that was played for us at Arkansas State. He was a 3rd round pick. Player, but he was real skinny. I don't remember his exact measurements, but he was 6'3", 6'4", 200 and change out of high school from Tupelo. And he came to Arkansas State, and he 3rd round pick, 6'6".
How about my guys playing linebacker for New Orleans still, and y'all put him at fucking receiver, and he caught passes.
You talking about Demario Davis?
Yes, he played wide receiver for you guys at Arkansas State.
So Demario, we played him. I can't remember where we played him. We put him in some slots, some things, but. Yeah, Demario was a freakazoid, but Demario had a transition really between his junior and senior year that was unbelievable. Gerald Everett, without question, Gerald Everett at South Alabama would be on my alien list. Got cut from 2 junior colleges because he wasn't good enough. Hutch and Butler, I think, ends up going to UAB, and then when UAB shuts down, comes to South. He was out there. Just shoot. I mean, DK Metcalf for sure.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's definitely one. I can tell this now. Derrick breaks his leg in spring practice as a freshman and doesn't missed the last half dozen practices, and then was running full speed with the team on June 1st. Eddie Jackson.
Yeah,
Eddie Jackson tears his ACL in the spring game, in the 8A game, and starts August 1st, 2 days. Vinny Sinceri tears his ACL on Halloween night against Arkansas and goes through pro day and gets drafted.
This podcast brought to you by Andrew Sports Medicine.
Yeah. Jeff Allen, the man, the myth, the legend. Just a bunch, man. There's been just people who genetically it's not fair. It's just not fair.
Let me follow up with this on the recruiting front. staying with high school guys, because you said it a little bit earlier, and I'm really interested to get your answer on this. So at the end of the day, what's more important, ceiling or floor?
Floor.
I feel like a lot of people would not expect you to go that direction, but I kind of thought you might. That's why I wanted to ask you.
Yeah, for somebody, I'm looking for somebody with a high floor. And so kind of like always the way I described it to particularly young people in the business is if you can do an evaluation tape and you can't see a whole lot of difference between the highlight tape, because you will use the highlight tape as the ceiling because that's the best they got. And if you don't see a whole lot of difference between the highlight tape and the eval tape, you probably got you something there.
Yeah.
But I'm looking for, particularly now it's the trick is we've added this other element into the intangible stuff called money. And you got to play regardless. And it's tough. It's tough to tell. It's tough to go somewhere and you got to find people who aren't motivated by money.
Yeah.
And, you got to find the ultimate competitor. That's what you're looking for right now. So I think there's a lot of people who are, I know you're a big Yankees fan, so you're used to it. Y'all just buy everybody. You lose Soto. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe Soto left for the Mets. And I look out there and you got like Goldschmidt at first. You just reload and rebuy players.
Yeah.
But
and torpedo bats too.
And torpedo bats. I'm going to talk about that today on the show. That's awesome. But yeah, no, you got to find people who are the ultimate competitors and that are internally motivated, not motivated by external factors.
All right, so let's roll into some football this upcoming season. I wanted to get to Auburn with you because you coached with Freeze, so you've seen him with the quarterbacks. You said some things on your show about how he manages quarterbacks, how that can work or not work, why some of it was or was not working last year. Obviously, you've had guys like Bo Wallace come out and say their things about their experiences, but now you got a real talent. Like, this is a kid that if you're recruiting him, like, you're going to be looking for the fine-tooth dings on him because he can throw it, he can spin it, he can throw it deep, he's accurate, great wheels. Not the biggest kid, but when you watch him throw the ball, it's real. Tyler, he needs a reset. I had him multiple times last year, and I said it on Read and React early in the season before people started really talking about it because they thought it was just the offensive line. And I was like, guys, Oklahoma's got a quarterback problem. And Jackson Arnold's got a problem letting go of the football, as in he can't do it. So having heard that, if that's real, where do you sort of put Coach Freeze being able to take some of that out of him and put some of the good stuff in him, in his system, to allow him to utilize that skill set that he's got and be successful?
Yeah, very talented young man. I've followed Jackson Arnold probably the last 2 years of his high school career doing my business, what I do, and then obviously to Oklahoma. He's immensely talented. Last year was probably in my opinion, in probably a not great situation for a young quarterback. It wasn't just offensive line. His top 5 receivers were out. I mean, he was out there and he had a ton of weight put on him to where he was basically asked to win football games, at basically his second start, right? Really technically his first start because everybody already left anyway. So the time he got up under there, he was asked to win football games. Getting a reset with Auburn, I think one thing that's going to help him is he's arguably going to have the best wide receiver room, arguably in the country. He's going to have better players around him. He's going to be more experienced. The system's going to allow him, I think, to make clear, decisive decisions, particularly in the running game. And I think if he can, he's a thinker, and you can tell when he plays. And probably, last year, I probably saw we're talking about the same thing here. He was trying not to make the big mistake last year,
right? And
it forced him to hold on the ball a little bit longer. I think there's some pre-snap stuff in this offense that will allow him to take long as he's a smart guy. He's going to be able to keep them ahead of change, which I think was the biggest fallacy in that offense last year and it wasn't the passing game. That passing game was an issue. But in my opinion, the bigger mistake was staying on schedule and making bad decisions in the run game.
Yeah.
And so, look, I think he's a really good fit for the system. I think it's going to work out well for all parties involved.
On the flip side of that, Oklahoma, I mean, this John Mateer kid, there's like real Baker Mayfield tendencies with him. The way he moves, throwing off platform, like just kind of being ballsy with the hits that he takes and not being afraid of contact, thinking he can fit it in, which most of the time he does. He comes with his coordinator. He's going to have a good cast. Now, I don't know about, Bill's still got some work to do with the O-line because you had to change a lot of that over, but I don't think people understand the injury issues last year of, you could speak to this because you know it, like you're holding guys out of practice because they're dinged up. Then you're trying to play them, but they hadn't practiced together. And then another guy gets hurt. So you're just rolling that further down the hill. Like that's a mess to try to manage and deal with. If that part's just a little bit better, like I think I'm on record right now. I think Deion Burks is going to have a massive, massive year in that offense. And Mateer, a big reason why. What can Oklahoma be this year with what they're going to bring in?
Yeah. Look, probably me and you are probably the only people that know anything about the SEC that even know who this guy is because we're sickos and we watch all kinds of football. This guy's the real deal now. And the biggest thing is, Mateer is the real deal. He's coming in with his coordinator. That is huge because he doesn't have to relearn a system. And that I can't overstate that. I cannot overstate that. I mean, and I think that is massive. I mean, you look at the evolution of Cam Ward. I think one thing that helped him was going with his coordinator, right, when he left Incarnate Word. And so when you're looking at those kind of things, like I'm telling you, like if Oklahoma, the only question to me is I think they're going to be great on defense again. Now, the only question that you have, the only way it's not better is if some reason that the offense is going fast and now the defense is out there. Like statistically, they might not be as good because they're going to probably be on the field a little bit more. With the offense, how does the defense-offense thing mesh, right? Because I think I'm a believer, call me crazy or not, I am a believer that makes a difference, okay? I mean, you do have to defenses that are usually really, really, really good and elite, usually their offenses are slower tempoed, okay? And so the faster, so statistically they may not, but dude, they're going to be, I think they could be a legit problem in this league. I think they could be much, much, much improved to where I would probably vote the two teams I think record-wise that will be the most improved based on before we hit the second portal window is, as rosters stand right now, would be Oklahoma and Auburn.
I would be with you. And, I mean, that's losing some serious firepower on defense, too. I mean, Billy Bowman, Danny Stutzman gone, but, like, that defensive line I think has numbers still. I think they're going to be solid. And then
they've done a really good job since he's been there, personnelling and establishing depth on that side of the ball. So I think they're going to be fine. I think Venables is one of the best. I think he finds a way to do it. He's a
whatever you do, just don't say that they had a tight end that got a little bit better towards the end of the year because you will be attacked by multiple mobs of Oklahoma fans if you say that he got a little bit better by the end of the year. You're not allowed to say that. Just don't.
I like Venables, and I think he's a major pain in the ass to all offensive coordinators in the league. I like him a lot. I've liked him since he was at Clemson. He's one of the best in the country, and I think if they get the offense to go along with it, they could be a problem in this league.
You know what I like about him is you're like me. You probably see something that looks good, and you go back and you start watching it, and you're like, all right, I got this figured out. I got this. I know what's coming here. And then it's like as soon as you think you got it, it's something different. Like that Kip Lewis pick 6 against Auburn. I went back and watched that pressure in every game before that game, and he never dropped. That double A gap walk up, he never dropped. And then, of course, that one time he drops on a massive play and he picks it and takes it to the house, and you're like, damn, that's the one that they get you on. So
yeah, he's good, man. He's been one of the best for a long time.
Where are you on some of these younger quarterbacks in the league? Because I think there's people who are, they're just going to be incredible. And then there's kind of a little bit more reality of not going to have the same people around them. Still may run into some issues like Lagway at Florida, Sellers at South Carolina. It feels like there could be some incredible young quarterbacks in the league right now. But would you tell some of those people, hey, slow down a little bit? Like we still got a ways to go.
Yeah, I'm very interested in Lagway and Sellers' both development. I think they both fundamentally have some things to do, particularly in the passing game. Sellers is a dynamic runner. Okay. I mean, he is the dynamic of dynamic. They're going to make natural progression from year 1 to year 2. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of how much is it going to happen. Right. And, but both of them fundamentally throwing the ball has some things that they got to work on. Lagway gets up underneath it a little bit and sells it. But he makes the wild play.
Yeah.
That's the thing is like you saw it, like what he can do. He just needs to do, fundamentally get, in balance and get his hand, and Billy's one of the best. So Billy will get him right. Same thing with Sellers. So there's going to be natural progression with both those guys. Arch, which is, already to get to this point in his life to where he's at says a lot about the kid. I mean, the amount of pressure that he's been under because of his last name since he can probably understand it. And to get to this point is really good. I would temper the expectations on him a little bit and let him grow up. He's really, 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 really talented. He's spent time and he's learned. He just probably needs some game reps. I think you'll see a big shift in him from the beginning of the season to the end of the season, but just for getting reps in games.
Yeah.
And then, I expect Nico to make a big jump. He showed at Tennessee. I think he'll make a huge jump. Austin Simmons at Ole Miss, I think is as talented as anybody. Needs reps. And there's probably going to be a little bit more. There's probably going to be undue expectations on him because of who he's replacing, the success that they've had in recent years, and then of the drive he had against Georgia when he came in and kind of led a touchdown drive, like he'd been playing the whole year in the biggest game of the year. But a lot of people don't realize probably 2 of those balls were probably not great. were probably not great. They worked out great though. He weaved one in there, and I was like, "Ooh!" And then he got one batted that probably should have been picked on the same drive. But he is immensely talented.
Yeah.
And look, I think when you look at both Alabama and Auburn, I think they have 2 really young, really talented guys in the wings, and it makes you wonder. Like, okay, how long, if things aren't the way you want them to be early, how long before you go to the talent? Because Russell and both Deuce Knight can play.
Yeah.
And how quick they develop, they learn the system and things like that. So it'll be interesting. It's going to be a really, really good year in the league for quarterbacks. Again, shocker.
There's some sleepers out there. They're not sleepers because we know all these guys. I mean, it's the SEC. Everybody knows everybody. But I look at Taylor Green coming back, kind of like what you said earlier, with Bobby. And if he cleans up some of the mistakes and gets a little bit more crisp, and I don't think he has necessarily the weaponry that you'd like for him to have, but he's a takeover guy. Like they could be super dangerous. And what about Blake Shapen year 2 with Levy? People forget he got hurt early. And now that he knows the system, he's been in it. He has some game reps. I know, again, they don't have the weapons necessarily that they want, but he's a vet and has got some real ability. Could you see either one of those 2 guys maybe going way past where people sort of think, it's a low expectation right now.
Well, you left one out I'll bring up too, but, with Green, play within the system. I think the more, look, Petrino's one of the best. And I've said this, I'll always say it. He's top 5 of my generation and really is probably the most underrated play caller in the last 25, because he's done it with everybody.
Yeah.
He's done it in different systems, and he's done it with everybody. And, getting him to play, getting Green to play within the system, not trying to do too much, and becoming a more consistent passer.
Yep.
But he's got, I always joke, I said, he's got some, Cam Newton was one that would he'd pull Reed zone into 3 unblocked defenders and he'd run through them around them, all that stuff. And so, Green's got a little bit of that too, right? And sometimes they'll run Reed zone and they'll have a squeeze scrape with a bonus safety and he'll pull it right into them and outrun the other 2, right? So, another year just running the system, staying and trusting the system, I think he's going to be good. I'll be interested to see Marcel Reed in a full offseason when he's your guy. And, they kind of tried to play catch up once he became the starter, systematically trying to add more quarterback runs and things like that. But he needs to develop as a passer as well. He's underneath it fundamentally, but he's got arm talent. So I think there's a bunch of guys like that. I think the league, I think everybody's going to have a quarterback.
Yeah. What's the underrated aspect of building a football team in college football right now? Like maybe you could have said for a while there it was the tight end position, it was edge rusher, it was a defensive line, having size up front. Like, what do you look at right now that not a lot of people have enough of that is a little bit underrated of, if you can get this, it's going to give you a massive advantage against anybody any Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's really a secret, but offensive line wise, I think offensive line play as a whole is going down. It's harder to evaluate. And with the portal, we've been in this like offensive line forever. Okay, you played the position, so you're going to understand this. That's the one position that really hasn't changed through all the changes that we've had. Even though we've tried in the last 5 years, and I think this is why it's down right now, is we've tried to make it change.
Yeah,
it's a developmental position. Okay.
No,
I mean, I can count on my hands as many guys that can come in and play right away and be a difference maker. Okay. The problem is this, and this is why I think it's down, is you got guys that are playing 1 year or whatever, and they're going to get their bag and they go, and they're very talented and they go and transfer somewhere. Okay. I'm just throwing this out there. Let's say a guy was at Alabama and transferred to Auburn, since I know you got most of the people listening there. He could be extremely talented, but he's going into a new system. Okay. And you play an offensive line, I understand this a lot. Okay. Well, maybe we don't run duo here, and that was my jam, or maybe we're an outside zone team, we're a gap scheme team at the other place, or whatever it is. Like, those are different physical skill sets that are required to play those positions. And I think you almost reset your development when you transfer. And not necessarily with everybody, but a lot of these guys, when you start thinking about really good offensive linemen, you didn't think they were going to be really super great coming out of high school. There's very few. Most of them develop. And, I think staying with the same system, same coaching staff, same thing accelerates development. I think it gets hindered with transferring.
More than any position. I think it's the hardest position to transfer and be great. And it's because you're relying on the other guys with you.
You don't know who's perfect. Exactly. You don't know who's with you. And schemes could be different. And then look, everybody runs inside zone, right? Everybody runs it. But maybe people do it differently. They have different calls. You have different whatever. And then on top of that, like you said, you don't know who's next to you. And maybe I could get up to that. Maybe I could get up to the second level a lot better because I had a badass guard next to me.
Yeah.
Well, now I don't. Now I got to stay hung on it all the time, and whatever it is. And I think that position. Now, with that being said, that's the other issue, right? Is you go get an offensive lineman, a really good one out of high school that you want to develop. By the time you develop them, they're not there anymore.
Right.
They become a good player, and then they're so valuable in the portal. It's just I think that's the position that if you can figure out how to, play really good, get good offensive linemen and keep them together for the length of time and keep them playing together, I think you'll have a better team. And you can be, if you're good up front on the offensive side of the ball, you got a chance.
Oh, it's going to give you out a lot of trouble. And it'll give you more problems than you ever bargained for if you're not okay there.
It's the only position that makes it's really the only position. People don't realize this because people automatically say quarterback. It's the only group on the field that you can honestly draw everybody else's success to. It's the only group on the field. It's the only group on the field that you can draw everyone else's success on the team around. Because if the offensive line good, your running back's going to be good. So is your quarterback. Your receivers are going to be better because your quarterback's going to have more time to throw it. And you have more time to get open. And so, from an offensive line standpoint, for me, that's how. Anytime I've gone to a new program and started over, that's where we've tried to build it inside out.
I'll tell you one thing that has shown up, and it goes to what you're saying, is what the portal era has kind of shown me. So I got to go look at these lower tier guys that are coming into the SEC, and usually you would expect, all right, so-and-so from Mercer or so-and-so from Citadel or so-and-so from East Tennessee State. You're like, this is going to be a waste of time. Let's go see the kid like that. I guess they took him. They had to have depth, whatever. What I'm finding is there's a kid going to Oklahoma. I had his name written down in my notes when I did the top 5 offensive linemen come to the SEC. He was like number 2, I think. And he played at a small, Division II school. and he's out there playing tackle, and I'm like, shit, this kid can play. And it goes back to what you said about recruiting. Like, I understand the level of competition, but like, I can watch his pass set. I can watch his hand placement. I can watch how he comes off the football. It's like, this dude moves. Like, he can change directions, and he's like 315. So, but he's been in the system for 4 years or 3 years. And so what I'm finding is these lower tier guys that have been actually playing for 2.5, 3.5 years, they can come in and play because they know the technique, they know the physicality, they understand the position. And the main thing with me with like offensive lineman, Tyler, is like, you got to get the thought out of it. Because if I come to the line of scrimmage and I'm thinking about, oh man, if this dude slants inside, what am I going to do? Do I have this? If this linebacker's walked up, do I have to take him? It's over. It's over. If you have that slight hesitation against these D linemen, you're done, man. Like it doesn't matter how athletic you are, how strong you are done. And the thought is removed, the more comfortable you are with it. So when I don't have to give the guy next to me every call, or he doesn't have to hear every check or every ace call or every deuce call, or like, they don't need to know who the point linebacker is because we've been doing it. Like, we got this. That's when you excel. And like you said, that's all being stripped away. Because the amount of guys that have been playing together for 3 years, I mean, shit, there's none of them. 2 years, you might find a couple, and those are the ones that are always better.
Yeah, it's tough, man. And then, like, when you're going up, like if you're taking a group of 5 guy, or really anybody, and you're bringing them, and it's really the SEC. I mean, the Big Ten's probably got this problem too. It's every week, man.
Yeah,
it's every week. Like everybody got dudes up front on the other side of the ball, and so, like, for me, it's like I'm not saying that those guys can't play. I just think you have to understand what you're getting out of them. Yeah. You can't expect a guy that's an All-American at Delta State to go be an All-American at Mississippi State. Like, can he play? Yes. Is he going to do it? Like, you can't, the expectation levels, like, you got to understand that. So if you're looking for an all-conference guy, that's probably not the place to go get them, right? And you just got to understand, because they're seeing it. They may see an NFL dude twice a year.
You're right.
And as opposed to saying, and that's when you got to start looking at their length and things like that. You know, when they do lose the matchups and you go into more of evaluating them, you know, why are they losing the matchup? But you're seeing it every week, every single week. And that's why I think if you look at the SEC in general, you don't see a lot of guys coming up from offensive line perspective and having great success going up levels because of that. And I think you can, now in the skill positions, I think you can find them because skill. Mm-hmm. I think you can find some of the skill positions, but you got to know what their limitations are, either call the game around it or help them out or whatever you got to do. But guys, I think they can play for sure. It's just a matter of, you got to understand your expectations and know, like, you know, I'm going to throw one out there, just came to my head. But if Myles Garrett's lined up on the other side, it really doesn't matter. There's not many dudes that are going to, you know, when you start looking at your schedule, well, these guys got, you know, this guy, they got this guy, they got this guy. I mean, the SEC is, unless something changes, the SEC usually produces first-round edges and first-round interior guys.
No doubt. Man, I appreciate the time today. I've kept you a while, and you and I could do this for hours. But just wanted to get some of the GM stuff in. Just wanted to get some of the other stuff, and obviously the guys you've worked with. So appreciate the time. We'll have to do it again soon.
You bet, brother.